548 corruption, I think it is. And I'm not supposed to be low life because I have really bad gear. I'm not really covered on crit. I'm compensating fist resistance with a blessing that should be endurance threshold. So, like, defensively, there's a lot lacking in this character, in this gameplay that I have right now. But this is 548 corruption in mediocre gear. And another thing to point out, which is very important, I have 227 life regeneration when I should be having about 700 life regen. Well, I'll explain how this build works after this map, and I'll show you guys this in action. I've killed Abby with it, and it's like pretty fucking easy. It's a Wraithlord build. I will point out that there is still a bug sometimes where the Wraithlord is sliding when you want. Ooh, that hurts. He's sliding around, which is really freaking frustrating. Like this, you see this? He's not attacking. So I wouldn't use this for hardcore because of that reason alone. Because that means you can very easily get overrun, which is terrible, obviously. So I wouldn't recommend this for hardcore at all. Like, sure, I'm lacking defense on the character, but even if you have the defenses that I'm lacking covered and not running low life boots, him sliding in higher corruption means you're going to have to start tanking everything, and the build's not supposed to be a super tank. It's supposed to handle surviving, which is basically what I'm lacking right now. But I'll walk you guys through my gear after this one. Alright, so this was 548 corruption, level 96. So yeah, let's just walk through it. Originally, did this with a low life setup, if I can find my gear. Something like this, with Exsanguinous, for example, running the last steps of the living. This is how I've seen this build be done in the past. I did a variation of this. However, one of the issues I encountered was that when you take damage and you're entirely low life based, the only survivability you have is to stop taking damage and wait for your ward to recover back up, and it's not always that fast. So I wanted to do something different, trying to find a solution to making that approach smoother. So I've been struggling trying to get my gear into the state where it should be. But I'm going to walk you guys through how the build works and how it functions, how it's set up. And then I'll show you the planner, and I'll leave a link in the description down below to the planner, unless there's a written guide ready at the point. Once the written guide is posted, we'll have that link, which will have the planner in it as well, of course. So, obviously, I should not be using low-life boots. The reason I am is because my Citadel boots, which is what I'm supposed to be wearing, doesn't have movement speed, and that turned out to be way worse. So, don't do that. What's important is that you have a traversal experimental mod. You can have that from boots, such as the tier 3 second mod here, or I have an LP on my last episode of Living, which was from my previous version of the build. There is champion modifiers on rings that allows you to get them as a sealed affix on rings, which is extremely good because now you don't need them on the boots anymore, which would actually be better, but I haven't found any good ones yet, hence the problem here. So, first up, we're running Jeweler's Obsession. This is to give our Wraithlord extra cast speed. My previous gloves I was using was low-life gloves. We don't use that for this. So, Jeweler's Obsession, priority on cast speed. Most likely something like Intelligence as a second priority. We are not running Last Steps of the Living. We are indeed running Citadel Boots. And the reason for this is very straightforward. We get reduction of bonus damage taken from crits, and then you want to have a crafted modifier of the same to get rid of that. The priority of this gear is going to be, obviously, your resistance caps. Minion HP is super important, and I'm going to show you where I put that. And then the next priority is health regen, together with life. My planner has about 4,000 HP. I have 2,500, so I'm pretty badly geared in comparison to what I want. So what I would recommend doing is having minion life on both your rings and your belt. And the reason for this is that the longer your Wraithlord stays alive, the better damage there is, and he can actually start surviving hits at the same time as he's going to be degenerating life from your Infernal Shade, which he's going to out-leech by hitting. But if he doesn't survive between packs, it's completely irrelevant. So minion life is very important on the rings. But I'll show you the gear in the planner. Instead, I want to talk about how the build works. So we're going to run a Wall of Nothing, and before you get a Wall of Nothing, you can just use a regular rare chest or something like that. It's perfectly fine. So the way Wall of Nothing works is that there's a % chance that you take 0 damage when hit. That's a nice defensive layer. You'll have a increased ward decay threshold and endurance threshold, and we're going to be utilizing both for this build. Then there's a percent of your endurance threshold is added as ward decay threshold on top of that. So you get a lot of ward decay threshold. And then the last mod is ward regenerated per second. And this is why all of our idols with these Weaver's mod on them should be ward decay threshold, ward per second modifiers across the board. And we're running this with simple life and ward retention. And same thing with the large idols. They should have ward per second HP hybrid mod together with... do I even have one good? You have one good large idol, which is ward per second HP and ward retention as a suffix to help out with the layers of defense. So that's basically why we're running Wall of Nothing. And then together with that, we're running Vessel of Strife, which is why we're doing HP regen. This basically gives us ward retention, mana, spell void, and void damage doesn't matter, but the ward retention is nice. Most importantly is the percent of health regen also applies to ward. So this means that when you have life regeneration, a percent of that life regen now also applies to regenerating your ward. So if I take a hit going past my current ward and hits my life pool, the first thing that's going to happen is both my energy, or my ward and my life pool is going to start regenerating, giving me two different layers of defense or max HP or effective life that's going to be regenerating, which is how this build is supposed to sustain itself compared to a regular classic low life set. We're running a classic death rattle since our minion is always critting. We're using a Usurper's Mandate, and the reason for this, I'll explain that real quick, is because of the simple fact that this flat damage on a two-handed weapon is equivalent to 18.6 consumed minions from the Wraithlord. And a lot of people seem to be super tunnel visioning and focusing on the idea of making the Wraithlord consume minions, and I'm telling you, it is not good to do that. The consumption of minions gives the Wraithlord 3 flat spell damage for 10 seconds, temp buff, but it also means that he is interrupting everything he's doing to consume a minion to then start attacking. And it's better to just not focus on that. I have one minion being spawned from my transplant, which is a bone minion, as you can see here. There's a little red skeleton. So if I have him up, he's going to consume that. Instead of using mage skeleton transplant, which actually has a half-second delay, if I use transplant, he's immediately going to consume it, which is very, very smooth to play with. And the minion comes from obviously the Wraithlord's Arbor Helmet. However, I have the wrong LPing here. My priority should be health regeneration on the LP as I'm currently switching. I have been prepping to sort this as I have two new 2LP helmets ready to pop. So the reason we use the Usurpers instead of something like the Lemnisate, if I can spell correctly, something like this, which would give us a lot of necrotic penetration and damage, is actually because of the extra levels, which should be giving us more damage in general, but you could run a scales as well. It's perfectly fine to run both. The main part of this is because the extra levels gives us access to Dusk of the Living, which is crit multipliers. So that's the reasoning behind this. You could run a one-hander and a Tolmat's relic setup, or that's perfectly fine, but this will inevitably be a better play. And these you can actually do very easily with Rune of Ascendance. To get a Usurper's Mandate, it's a 1 in 4, so it's 25% chance to hit them. So as you can see, we have quite a few here that I've been gambling with the Woven Echoes. I even have a couple ready if I find an Exalted weapon to get a 2LP out of it. It's very, very common. So that's the gearing. I'll explain this in the planner later. Actually, you can just move to the planner. It's easier. So basically, you'll have between 700 and 860 life regeneration, which would then also apply to your ward, giving you stupid amounts of defense. My current character is 227, so I'm a little behind on the gearing. Like I showed you earlier, or told you earlier, Citadel Boots is supposed to be there with the Traversal mod, unless you have a good ring that can take that. In that case, you would switch that for Intelligence, or run Intelligence, Caspian, and Jewel Rush. Health region being the highest priority of the vessel. Secondary would be minion damage. The rings we're going to run in a minion health with Intelligence. Then a hybrid health and health region mod is super important. That's the main priority here. Together with whatever rest you need, which will be Void or Fist. So I have Fist resistance here. And I got Fire resistance on my Turquoise ring. And then on the belt, I have Void resistance and a sealed Fist rest if you need it. And in here, the belt should be prioritized one rest roll, health regen as suffix. Instead of hybrid HP, just go for health regen. And the prefix will be minion damage, minion health. Priority of Wall of Nothing would be to have levels of Wraith and then HP. priority on the usurpers is obviously the flat spell damage to minions and then necrotic penetration. If you get like an LP3, just chuck in like parry chance or something. It's completely irrelevant. Same thing with the amulets. I don't have the health regen on my amulets, but health regen priority on the LP, and the second priority would be minion damage. Helmet priority, again, health regen, and then HP, just for those extra layers of defense. So the way the build works in terms of skills, I can probably easy to show you in game. We are running a Bone Curse in which we're getting the Marked for Death, together with Misery and having Marked for Death duration. Then having area on this and having it armor shred with the kill threshold to have the kill. Once you kill a pack of enemies, the Wraithlord will then consume that extra minion, which is kind of nice to have as well, just when you're clearing maps. Transplant, very simple. We're doing the fear setup on the bottom side. We'll have area. We'll make sure that you do a Bone Curse on arrival. And this is to have some better defense out of it, together with the detonation leaving a blood pool. But most importantly is this left-hand side, cooldown recovery into bone minion on the transplant to give us bone armor, and then having the armor duration just to stack up better layers of defense. Dreadshade, we do a very classic 1 minion army set with it. We're going to have this one, which makes it no longer drain any HP. We can only have one Dreadshade. We're making sure that the minion gets blinded by it for more attack speed, or cast speed rather, but lowers critical strike chance, which we're then compensating by taking Egoism, which makes the minion always crit, but puts the cooldown. So make sure you actually put it on the correct minion. So every time you want to resummon it, summon the guy far away from you, and first up click the Dreadshade like this, then do the Dreadshade, so you can guarantee that it actually ends up on him, because this puts it on an 18-second cooldown. You don't want to misclick one of your other wraiths. Then we have the no health decay, so we can get more damage from Doom and Wrath. Then it's just reduced health decay by flat necrotic spell damage, more damage area, all of these generic stuffs. Infernal Shade is very straightforward. We obviously take 3 points of influence so we can get to the Devouring Flame. This allows us to put Infernal Shade on our minions. We'll pick up the damage here, as well as the Soulfire for unlimited duration, so we don't have to recast these things ever. And then Manic Fire for more movement speed and cast speed. Then we'll pick up some points in fanning the flames. Torment the beacon into Baneful so we can reach Bloodshade. Fire damage converted to Fizz. And then we have Armor Shred from that, so we can actually have some better Armor Shred approach from this. The Summon Wraith, we obviously max out the Reapers. We max out Necrotic Hunger. This is for the health leech and damage output. We put 2 points in this so we can reach Flame Wraith. We don't really care too much about Flame Wraith. We're not running a stationary Flame Wraith Wraithlord setup. We're running a mobile one, but this is a multiplicative more damage multiplier. And then we obviously grab 1 point in Locus of Resurrection so we can reach Haunting, which gives HP, into Twin Spirits. We can have maximum 2 extra wraiths, since the Wraithlord will only shoot its beams when you have max amount of wraiths summoned. So this is how you can do that. The next, this also prevents the decaying of them, so they will stay up as long as they don't die from hits. And this follows up with Sequel of Avarice, so we can get some more damage output. After this, I would take the Spirit Link for crit strike chance and 2 points Dawn of the Fall. This means that since he's always critting, he will be leeching 24/7. And any extra nodes will be chucked into Dusk of the Living for crit multi for more damage output. And then after that, if you have any extra nodes, I would take Grave Reality, because the summoning cost don't matter, the summoning cast speed don't matter, but he gets him more HP so he can stay alive. And that's basically the gist of this entire character, the way we play it. Blessing-wise, I am currently running Grand Greed. This is for Ward on Kill, but Ward Decay Threshold. We're running a regeneration from Ending the Storm, which is just a health regen and flat health regen. I could get a little better here, actually. Then we want to run All Resistance. On the last one from Spirit of Fire, we run an Endurance. And the one before that, I'm currently running Fist Resistance. Again, I'm transitioning from a low-life gearing into this style. We're supposed to have this node right there, which is Endurance Threshold, which is quite important, as we talked about earlier, as percent of my Endurance Threshold is added as War Decay Threshold. Not only will it cover and get me better mitigation of damage mitigation from my life pool, it also will increase the amount of ward I'll have on the build as well, and also at which rate I'll get the ward back once I've lost it due to my life regeneration, which is currently a sorry excuse for regeneration compared to what I'm supposed to have on average roll, sitting on 668. Like, I'm lacking so much for this build right now to function. But that is the build. I'm having a lot of fun, despite being undergeared and having pretty terrible. Like, I don't have any cover versus crit right now. I've been playing with 20% fist resistance earlier. Despite that, I've been able to farm on 548 corruption with the occasional deaths due to lack of gear. So that's kind of like the approach I've done Abbey way before when I had even worse gear. The build's been functioning very fine. The only problem is the sliding effect of the Wraithlord, and yeah, no, it's going to be fun. It's going to be quite exciting to see when I get closer to this level of gearing because of how insanely tanky you get with the sustain. I'm pretty sure that out of an educated guess, I would be able to, in this type of gearing, probably be able to handle up to 1,000 corruption without thinking too much. I think that after 1,000 corruption, closer to 1,500 is when you have to start playing like an actual pussy. And basically, you just want to make sure that your minions doing your damage. You don't want to face tank anything. Basically, the way I'm playing right now is how you have to play even with the gear after 1,000 corruption. But luckily, 1,000 corruption is more than enough to farm endgame stuff, and it's kind of like the sweet spot for farming. Anything above that is just dick measuring contests. But that's it. That's the build I have for you. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and I'll leave a link in the descriptions down below to the written build guide. And if the written guide is not updated yet, there will be a link to the planner instead till it's done. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, stay safe and keep rocking.